Hello guys and welcome back. So in this video we will be adding our climbing animations, or you can say climbing parkour actions. So for that, first of all, open up the miximo.com website because we will be needing the animations for our climbing actions, okay? And on the miximo.com, make sure that you have uploaded your character. I have shown you how you can upload your own character on this website, okay, in the starting of this course. So once you have uploaded your character, right here search for praised, okay, and when you search for it you will find these animations as you can see. So what I want you to do is now select this animation which is by the name of praised hang hop up, okay, click on it, and as you can see this will be our animation for moving the player up to the climb point, okay. So just simply download this without skin and then select right here FPX for Unity, click download, and once you download that, now let's select this brains hang drop, okay. This will be our animation for climbing down, so just simply download this in the same format and skin as well. Then after this, let's select this one which is by the name of braced hang hop left, click on it, and as you can see this will be our animation for climbing to the left side, download it. Then after this, select this braced hang hop right, okay, we will be using this animation for climbing to the right side, download this one as well. We have the animation for shimmy actions as well, but for now we didn't have any code for shimmy action, so we will be leaving this as it is for now. We will download this in our future videos. Now once the animations are downloaded, click on animations, then inside the climbing actions, the climbing animations, what we will do, we will now drag and drop them. Let me actually maximize it and then minimize right here. Let's drag and drop this in our climbing actions right there, okay. So this is our hang hop right, this is hop up, this is the left, and this is the drop, okay. So these first four are the animations. So what we're gonna do, we will select all of these four animations, click on its rig, change it to humanoid, and then right here avatar definition will be changed to copy from other avatar, and in here we will select main mesh avatar, click apply, that is it. Now if we check it out, as you can see this is our animations, okay. We will also be trimming these animations just a little bit. So let's select the hang hop up animation right here, okay, and if we play this animation, as you can see right here, when the player moves up, as you can see there is this space, okay. So what we want, when the player jumps to the ledge like this, then we want to cut this end part, okay. So what I will do right here is, from the end right here I will cut the end 37 frames, okay. As you can see, when the player jumps, then that is all we want, okay. Right here, go ahead, click on apply. When you do that, let's now click on the braced hang drop. Let me see this one. Right here we will change the rotation to big into pose, and then this to original, and then all of the other things will be the same. Click apply. Okay, we don't want any rotation in this one, so that's why we do that. Then let's select the next one, which is hop left. In this one we will set it to original and bake into pose, click apply. Then let's select the right, or you can say hang hop right, and in here we will do the same. We will select original, bake into pose, click apply. Then again, if we select the hang hop up, okay, which we trim, now right here what I want you to do is to change it to original and bake into pose, and that will be it for this one as well. Okay, so once you do these two things, trim the animation and then setting the transform to original and begin to pose. Now the next thing which we want to do, if you notice these animations, okay, I will start from the first one. Now if I press the right key button, as you can see right here, the transform of the player, or you can see the position of the player, decreases. As you can see right here, the player is on this line, and if we select the next one, the player now drops down, as you can see. And if we select the third one, the player drops down even more. And then the third one, the player drops down even more again. Okay, so what we want to do, we want the position y of all of these four animations to be the same. Okay, since these animation will be connected with each other. Okay, so we don't want the player to move up and down while these animation changes. Okay, so if we select our hang drop, okay, what I will do on this is I will change the position y offset to 0.97, or let's just make it 98. Okay, click apply. Then let's select the hang hop left. We will change the offset of this one to 0.295. Okay, then if we select the hang hop right, we will change this to 0.16. Then the last one is the hang hop up, so let's change this to 0.1. Click apply. Now if we select all of them, now as you can see, there is not that big gap. Now in the first two we have a little bit gap. Okay, the first one is a little bit down. Okay, if you select the first one, then select the second one, as you can see, the second one moves a little bit up. So what we will do, we will move this a little bit down, okay, to 0.32. Okay, I have test this value, and now if you notice, there is now no big gap. Okay, now there is just a little bit gap between the first, second and third one. If you notice, this one is a little bit lower than these two. Okay, so what we will do, we will now change this one to 0.185, and if we select the next one, what we want to do now is we want to move this one a little bit down. So let's select it and let's make this as 0.123. Okay, so now if you see all of the animations, as you can see, the player is in the same position. Okay, so you can set these values according to your own animations as well. Okay, like this, just simply select one of them and compare it to the second one, then compare it to the third one, then the fourth one. Okay, and once your player position remains the same, then leave it as it is. Okay, so make sure that you change these values according to your animations. Okay, that is it. Once you do this step, now let's go ahead and type a code and let's implement these animations so that the player can perform parkour on these. So for that you need to open up the climbing controller, and right here we added this comment for ourselves, which is ledge to ledge parkour action now. Okay, so what we will do, we will now actually let's leave this so that we know where we added our ledge to ledge parkour action jumps. Okay, so in order to perform the jump, now let me tell you that if we want the player to jump up, okay, then we want the player to press the W key and then the jump key. Okay, and if you want the player to jump down, then we want to press the S key and the jump key again, and if you want to move to the left, then we want to press the A key, then the jump key, and the same for the right, we will press the D key and the jump key. Okay, so first of all we need to create a input direction. Okay, so for input, first of all we will be needing to get the horizontal and vertical axis, or you can say the left, right, up, down key. So Right here we will say float horizontal. This will be equals to input dot get axis raw. We want to get the horizontal axis, so we will type horizontal. Okay, and as you know that we want to keep this horizontal value between 0 and 1. Okay, so in order to keep this between 0 and 1, what we will do, we will add round brackets like this, and then at the start we will say mathf dot round, and that is it. Now if we copy this, paste it down below, let's change this to vertical, and right here change this to ver dical vertical. Okay, now once we have the axis, now by using this axis, let's create a input direction. So we will create a variable by the name of input direction. This will be equals to new vector 2. We will pass the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. Actually, the horizontal and vertical inputs, you can say that as well. So now once we have the inputs, now we need the current climb point reference right here. Okay, because we have the input, but what we will do of this input if we don't have any climb point direction, or you can say reference. Okay, because once we have the reference, then we will be able to perform the climb up actions in our horizontal and vertical axis. So first of all, let's get a reference for our current climb point. So if we get right here to the climbing point script, actually not on the climbing point script, I get confused between these two. Actually on our climbing controller right here, we will say climbing point. Okay, this is a reference to our climbing point script, because on this script we have the climbing points. Okay, so we'll say climbing point, and let's name this as current climb point. Then if we scroll down inside this if condition, when we press the jump button and the player is not in action, and then inside this if condition where we perform our idle to climb action right here, now we will say current climb point equals to climb info. Okay, just climb info recast, then dot transform dot get component. Let's get the climbing point, and that is it. So now once we have the current climb point, now we can check that if that climb point has any neighbor in the direction or not. So in order to get the neighbor, let's go ahead and create a separate function for that on our climbing point script. So after the function, which is create point connection, right here we will create another one now. So we will say public neighbor, then we will say get neighbor. Okay, so this will basically return a neighbor, and this is the function name. Now this function will have a parameter of type vector2, and this will be our climb direction. Okay, so in here we will create a neighbor. This will be by default equals to null. Okay, Then after this, as you know that we will be performing the parkour action in the left, right, up, down direction. So as you know that we set that direction in our point direction x and y. If the y is 1, it means the player will move up. If this is minus, then the player will move down. And if this is 1, the player will move to the right. And if this is minus 1, then the player will move to the left. Okay. So we need to set this point direction. So right here we will say that if the climb direction dot y, okay, is not equals to null, it means that if we have assigned the up down direction of the climb point, then right here we will say neighbor, this will be equals to the neighbors list up here, okay, and then we will say dot first or default. Then right here we will say n equals to n dot climb direction dot y will be equals to the climb direction dot y. Okay. After this, let's do it for our x direction as well. So right here we will paste this and change this to dot x, and if that is not null, and right here we will also say if the neighbor is not null as well, okay, and the climb direction dot x is not equals to 0, then we will say neighbor equals to neighbors first or default, then n dot climb direction dot x, and then climb direction dot x. Then after this if conditions, we will simply return the neighbor. Okay, so this will basically give us the climb point neighbor. Okay, so if we are on climb point 1, then after that it will give us the neighbor that the next point is that one, and we check if that point is in the y direction or in the x direction. Okay, so now if we get back right here to our else condition, right here we can now perform our animation since we have the neighbors, okay, the y neighbors and the x neighbors. Okay, so before performing that, first of all, after this we need to set the animations in our animator. So if we get back right here, it is showing this error which is saying neighbor does not contain a definition for climb direction on line 37 and 42. So if we open up our climbing point script, okay, so right here I have made a mistake. This should be point direction, okay, point direction dot y and then point direction dot x. Okay, this is our vector to point direction. Okay, because on our point direction we set a direction in -1 1, and for the x as well -1 and 1, which moves our player to the left and right side, or you can say which tell our player to that the next point is on the left or on the right or up or down. Okay, so make sure that you type point direction dot y or whatever you name your vector to right here. Okay, so if we save the script, get back now right here. Okay, so now inside the animator we have this climbing animations. What we will do now is we will move this right here. Okay, then let's select our animations. So this is hang drop, let's move it right here. Then we have this hang hop up. Okay, then after this we have the left, then we have the right. Okay, so make sure that you add them like this. Then let's change the name of these animations. So we will remove the braced from the start and name this as climb up, then this one to climb down, then this one to climb right, and as you guessed the last one, this will be climb left. Okay, make a transition from hanging idle to climb up, then climb down, then to the right and left. Okay, that is it. Now we can get back to our script, but first of all let me tell you guys that make sure that you name them correctly and then you remember that animation name, okay, because we will be typing this animation name now. So if you get back now to the climbing controller right after this, let's assign the neighbor now to our input direction. Okay, as you know we have this get neighbor method now, and if you scroll up right here, we have a reference to our climbing point script already, so make sure that you have a reference as well. Okay, so in order to add the neighbor to our input direction, what we will do, we will create a variable which will be by the name neighbor. This will be equals to now current climb point dot get neighbor. Okay, this is our method which we created, and in here now to this vector to climb direction we will pass our input direction. Okay, now what we will do is we will say if the neighbor is null, then we don't want to do anything. Okay, we don't want to perform the climbing action, we will just simply return from here, and now we will say if the neighbor dot connection type is equals to the connection type dot jump. Okay, so what this means, if this neighbor connection type is equals to the connection type dot jump of the point, and also if the player presses the jump button, then what we will do, so right here we will say input dot get button. Okay, and right here we will say jump. Okay, and as you know that the jump is set to our space button. So now if this is the case, then our current climb point will be equals to the neighbor dot climbing point. Okay, and then we will say if neighbor dot point direction dot y is equals to 1. Okay, it means that if the point, okay, which is set in our environment, if on that point the y value is 1, and as I told you, when the y value is 1, it means the player want to go up. Okay, so if the player want to go up, then what we will do, we will play our climb up animation. Okay, so in order to play it, first of all we will right here say start coroutine, and as you know we have a method to perform animation, that is this climb to ledge. So we will pass the climb to ledge right there, and as you know it first of all need the animation name, so we will say climb up, then we will pass the current climb point dot transform, then we need the start time and end time for our target matching. So if you get back right here, click on animator, let's see our climb up animation right here. Okay, so what we will be doing right here is, okay, we will target match from here when the player hands are start moving. Okay, when the player hands start moving from some point right here from 35 till right here when the player lands the hand on the next point, as you can see right here. Okay, so right here we will pass the start time as 0.34. okay, and then the end time will be 0.64. Okay, so when you pass this, now let's copy this and paste it down below. Change now this to else if, and now this time if the y value is -1, it means the player wants to go down. So we will now call the climb down method, and then we need to change the start time and end time for this one as well. So if we select our climb down right here, let's check it out. So from here the player start moving the hand, okay, from this 30 point, and then let's move forward to right here when the player start landing the left hand, okay. So from 30 till 65, okay, when the player lands both the hand right here to 69 or 68 for example. So we will change this to, let's just say 31, and this one to 68. Okay, now copy this again, paste it down below. This time we will now do it for our x values, which is the left and right. So if the x is 1, it means the player wants to move to the right. So right here I will say now climb right. This is our animation name. Let's see the start and end time. So if we see our climb right, let's move it from right here. When the player leaves the hand on one edge, okay, so from somewhere 20 till right here when the player lands, okay, so 50 would be a good value because on 50 the player lands both of the hand, okay. So right here we will say 20, and right here we will say 51. Then let's copy this, paste it once again down below, and for the climb left the values of the start and end time will be the same since they are the same animations, okay. So we will leave this as it is. So once you do that, now right here make sure that you change this C to small, okay, climbing point, since it was giving us an error. So when you change that, the error will be gone. Now if we move right here after this input direction, what we will do, we will add a if condition, and we will say that if the player script dot player in action or the input direction is equals to vector 2.0, then we will simply return, okay, because then we don't want to perform the actions of the climbing controller. And after this, if we get back to Unity, let's click on scripts, parkour, let's open up the parkour controller, and right here we will say and player script dot player hanging, okay. So what this means, it means that if we press the jump button and the player is not in action, then as you know we perform the parkour. So now we say that if the player presses the jump button and also the player is not in action, and if the player is hanging, okay, then we will perform the parkour action. Because if you don't add this at the end, then for example if your player is hanging on to some point, okay, and in front of the point there is something that is on the obstacle layer, okay, and then if you try to press the jump button, then the player will perform the parkour action instead of the climb parkour action. So that's why you need to add this at the end. And also at the start of this player script dot player hanging, you need to add this not word. Okay, it means that if the player is also not hanging, then we will be performing the parkour, because as I told you, when we are on some point, then we don't want to perform the parkour actions. After this, if we now go ahead and open up our player script, in our player script we already added if the player is hanging, then we don't want to do any of the thing, we don't want to apply the gravity, not any other thing. Okay, but if you notice, the player movement method is on the top, so we need to move this player movement down below, since if we don't remove this, then the player still will have movement, the player will move to the left right while the player is hanging. Okay, so you need to move this right here. Then after this, let's open up our climbing controller and make sure to check your animation name once again. Okay, with this animation name, and also let's check the values. Okay, so y1, y minus 1, x1, x. Okay, right here we need to add minus. Okay, because if it is 1 we will move to the right, if it is minus 1 then we will move to the left. Okay, make sure to check all of these values or else your climbing controller will be messed up. Okay, so once you do this, save the script, get back to Unity, and also let's make sure our points are set up as well, as you can see. So now what we can do, we can now simply play the game and let's test it out. Okay, so now if you go ahead and perform the first one, as you can see it is perfectly working. Now the player jumps to the second one, now to the third one, now to the fourth, to the fifth. We can also get back down below, as you can see. Okay, so it means it is working perfectly fine. But if you notice, the player hand offset is not looking good. Okay, but don't worry, we will be fixing this hand offset of the player, okay, in our next video, since this video is already a little bit lengthy. Now if we jump right here, we will not be able to jump down, since this is just a one-way climb point. Okay, and from this climb point we will not be able to jump up. We will now add shimmy actions, but that will be in our future video. Okay, and if you want the player to go down as well from this point, then you can just make the fourth one is two-way, and that will be it. Okay, so once this is done, now our climb up controller is working perfectly fine. We need to set the hand offset on each of the climbing controller. Okay, so we will do that in the next video.